I guess you call it sand casting 101. Basically I've got some delft clay. Comes basically a fine sand with an inert oil in it, so it holds together under compression. So when you get in a block, you have to tap it out, put it back into a particulate state, so it's not solid. Get all these lumps out, so it turns basically back into a sand. And what I'm using here is not necessarily ideal, but it's my travel kit because I'm in Cornwall, and I packed what would fit. Once you've got your delft clay to a reasonably fine state, this is some old stuff, so it's got all bits of casting in it, but I'm not looking for a fine cast today, I'm kind of quick castings just to get an idea of how to cast the shapes. Okay, once you've got in that state, you load your back ring first.
Yeah, Dad.
The rim.
Dad. This is the bit. This is how it works.
Flat-ended hammer. Hammer it into your ring.
Try and get that one. You do that again.
Yeah, load up with your next layer. Hammer it into the ring. And you're aiming to do is get a nice even pressure all over the ring, so when you push your object in, when you actually do your casting, you haven't got harder or softer areas, whereas you end up with more vivid and less vivid detail on your object, which is where you go wrong sometimes. There's a army saying called, which is called, I think it's the 7 P's. Prior preparation and planning prevents poor performance. You can fill in the other P. And that's basically the same with this process. The preparation determines the outcome, so the better your mould is and the better the materials you're using, the better your cast will be. The more time you take over this part of the process, the better everything will turn out. So.
What are you doing now?
I'm preparing the other side of the ring. To do so, basically you have to put them together, because if you don't, you end up filling this ridge here, which isn't a good thing, because obviously then it won't press together and actually do use two sides of your basic mould. So, put a bit of talc on here to stop the other side. Ooh, a bit too much, but fine. It don't matter, don't harm anything. Stop the two sides sticking. Okay. That's fine. Decided to cast some shells, but before casting had to be prepared with wax in the centre of them, A, to make them more structurally strong, and also it stops you from basically casting inside the shell, which you don't really want to do. The reason I'm doing the shells is because I'm on holiday and I'm in Cornwall, so I thought, well, what better thing to do as kind of evidence of delft clay. Mm.
Spin it round.
Go in. There we go. Come in here, trash dad's flat.
Mm. Oh no.
Dog's coming in for a look.
Up you get. Come on.
Said dog.
Up.
Filling the back in. So we've basically got our shell inside, we've got the two sides done. Now if I've done this correctly, hopefully none of the clay pulls away from the impression that I've made on either side, but because it's quite a complicated shape, I believe there is going to be a slight pulling away, so we won't get a perfect impression, but we can do nothing but try. We're going to try and pull it equally as we can, and we've got quite a good impression there. But as you can see, because of the shape of it, we've got a few bits of delft clay here which have clung on to the original shape, even though I talcum powdered it. So now what we've got to try and do, without disturbing the clay around the outside too much, is try and release this from the centre of here. I'll do that.
That's cool.
As you can see, we've got some slight damage around here where the shell has actually undercut itself. Basically what I'll do is I'll make sure those undercuts are pulled out and build it up with a bit of delft clay around the outside to make a good mould. Got standardised dental tools are the best thing for doing this kind of work. Just removing all the undercutting overhanging parts and pushing the clay nice and firmly in, but not too firmly to actually destroy the structure of what you're trying to cast. So just using the end of my tool here just to make it nice and smooth, making sure no clay will deposit itself in the molten metal. What we're going to do now is create some alias brew hole where your metal is actually going to pour in. B, some breathers, so air can escape as you're pouring the metal in. You do it on the larger side of the cast, obviously, so you get more pressure from your sprue hole. You want to do it on the side which is going to have the least detail, so in this case it's going to be the where the actual snail would actually sit inside. So here we go. So the sprue hole has to be basically pushed through from this side to the back. Then the excess you just cut off like that, okay, because it's going to get in the way of the sprue. Okay, just clean this up a bit again. Come around the other side, push it through, get rid of any loose, then wiggle your tool around just to make a bigger hole for the molten metal to go through. To create an actual sprue itself, because you need pressure from the metal and a good reservoir of molten metal, just get your scalpel, cut in a circular motion around your sprue hole. Within the mould itself, obviously it has to push hot air out as the hot metal comes in through your sprue hole. So what you basically have to create is small air vents around the outside. I forgot my... I forgot to bring my flattened off nail, which is actually ideal for this. So I'm actually having to use a tool which is larger than what I'd like to use to actually make the ventilation. But luckily this shape, because it's a complicated shape, but because it's not got bits coming off everywhere, you don't have to do too complicated ventilation on it. If you've got a cross or something, obviously you have to come off the corners of the cross and on all four quadrants of it. There's all manner of doing this, but you just got to think about where the most likely air blocks would be. And obviously on this, because it's quite round, you've not really got an issue. The standard is really about 6 round the outside of the shape, although you can have less and feed the vents into one another, but it's just something to think about when you're casting. So we have 6 holes there, and then all you have to do on this is take a nice fine tool like that, and because you don't want the metal to run along it, you want to make very, very fine and go from the detailed object to your hole, not the other way. Very, very fine little lines, air vent lines, not too deep on each one, and this will ensure you don't get an airlock within your mould. There's the 2 halves of the mould. Obviously you match it up from your line on the mould, which I matched up previously when I put the original object in. And then you squeeze them together, match up the line, and you're more or less ready to go. Okay, that's it. Just melt the metal. probably not the ideal place to do it, but well, I haven't got much option. Like I said, I'm on holiday. Just on top of my dad's porch out here. Obviously use PPE when doing this, preferably masks. I'm a bit of a bad boy, I'm not doing it. And I'm in socks. So you keep the metal hot as you can in your crucible and pour until your sprue appears on the top. Give it a little bit of a run over, make sure that metal's gone in. And that's it. Now you just have to wait for it to cool and see what happens. Okay, if everything's gone right and there's been no air bubbles or anything like that and everything's worked perfectly, we should have near enough a replica of the original item, in this case a shell. So ease it apart. Yeah, it's flowed a little bit out, but it's not too bad. It can be neatened up with a jeweler's saw. Okay, we push them out the bottom. Try and save your Delft clay. Then we have a little replica. Needs a lot of cleaning up, this one. Something I've never cast before, so wasn't really sure how to do it. I'll know better for next time. It's good. It's alright, needs perfecting, but it's not too. There you got your final design. It's a mess. Definitely need some perfecting in that, especially around here. That's the bit you really want, isn't it? This little coil here. So maybe next time go in that end up. Just get that whole coil in and not to worry too much about this end of it. It's going to make a pebble.
And yes, what happened?
We can just file off the back of it again. Cut round it and file it off.
Only problem again.
This way we're going to try swirling it round. See how we get on with trying to get a thin coating of pewter inside the mould.
Yeah, let that go back.
swirling. Yes. Yeah.
See, that would work.
Sure,
Yeah, that would be, yeah.